Right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to week 8 of Marketing with C. In this week, I want to break down the concept of basically doing this, yeah? The concept I want to break down is this. This is me back in day, okay? Problem. And I have a dream, something somewhere in the future. Let's put a little goalpost. And in order for me to get from point A to point B, there is a series of steps that I have to take. And I've taken these steps and oftentimes taken actions that in essence led me nowhere. You know what I mean? I was spinning my wheels. But at some point, somewhere along the way, there came a time when I did a certain thing that led me to the result. So what I've recognized is that right now, standing in a position B where I've already achieved that dream, I've already achieved my goal, my mission becomes retracing my steps on what it is that I think that I have done that led me to the result. So that's the thing that I can share with the world. And that's a pretty simple concept, all right? I've solved the problem. Now I can show you the steps that I've taken, and that becomes my framework, and I begin utilizing that framework in order to sell my stuff. And there's a big benefit to doing that. I'm probably not explaining this in the best type of way because I'm new to explaining stuff, but I'm still going to give it my best go, all right? A guy called Russell Brunson, and you would probably know Russell Brunson if you're into marketing. That's kind of the concept that I'm getting from him, this concept. One of the main things that he speaks about is in order to become great at selling stuff online, or one of the things that you do when you become great at selling online is you begin communicating the product that you have, the thing that you're selling. Not just the product, but even your message, all right? It's all about having the ability to communicate it. But the only way for you to communicate something is if you understand it. And the only way for me to understand is to have a framework of what it is that I've done. And then I can base everything else off of that framework. So for me, it's fitness. I'm doing something with fitness. And the reality is that over the last year and a half, that's how long I've spent building a framework. Over the last year and a half, I've been trying to retrace my steps, all right? Retrace those steps that I've marked green and highlighted green here. The steps that I've taken from becoming someone that's in an incredible shape to the moment when I was just, starting out and I was completely lost, and trying to retrace each and every step that I've taken that could be significant. So in my case, I've come up with 3 main steps, all right? There are 3 steps that I believe were significant along the way of my transformation. And I'm not going to dive too deep into those steps because this isn't a video about my fitness framework. But what I want to say is this. Those 3 steps, this is just the surface level. I'll give you the rough breakdown so you understand it. So for me, when I was first getting started and going to the gym, one of my first biggest problem was the fact that I couldn't move well, all right? So despite of me watching someone perform an exercise, it didn't matter that I could watch them do it or even get them to give me tips on how to do it. If whenever I tried to do it, I would be completely lost and confused and I couldn't get into the correct position. And I couldn't understand why this was happening. Now, obviously, years later, now I get it. My mobility sucked. Exercises like bent over row, where you bend over with a bar and you perform a rowing exercise, in order for someone to be able to perform that movement, they have to bend over. And if they're struggling with bending over because their hamstrings are tight or their back is tight, well, they're never really going to be able to execute that movement. So that kind of becomes my step 1, all right? Mobility. Step 2 was the time when I unlocked my body, and in this moment in time, I can move with efficiency. So I can bend over, I can get into the position, but I'm still weak and I'm still small. I wanted to get bigger, I wanted to gain muscle. So my next step, if I'm retracing back my steps, I understand that there was a process, a time when I began focusing on building strength, strength and power, and then gaining my first layer of muscle. So my training program was designed to focus on gaining strength and gaining muscle, okay? So then I'm thinking about what did I do during this time? And that's exactly what I describe inside of step 2, yeah? So the moment that I began training in a very specific way to gain strength and gain muscle. And then step 3 was another step. Once I've gained some strength and gained some muscle, once I had a base layer of muscle, I started to recognize that when I'm training, I'm not just moving the weight up and down, I am now starting to actually feel the engagement inside of my muscles. And that engagement, let's call it mind muscle, all right? Mind to muscle. Training for mind to muscle, all right? Mind to muscle. I kind of fucked it here. Let me just fix it up a little bit. Mind to muscle, yeah? Training for mind to muscle was completely different to training for strength and hypertrophy, yeah? And training for strength was completely different than training for mobility. So these 3 steps become my framework for what it is that I want to begin sharing with the world, all right? So the position that I am in, as I said to you guys, although I'm building a fitness business, in reality, what I'm doing is I'm just doing it so I can gain skills. Because I could start selling stuff online now. I could start making money online straight away with fitness. I've built other companies and other businesses that allowed me to make over £100,000 from those businesses. But the thing is, I don't just want to make money from this. I actually truly want to develop skills, communicational skills that allow me to better thrive in other businesses in the future, but also become a better communicator. And I think this is one of the major steps. Learning how to build frameworks, learning how to retrace my steps with problems that I've had in the past that led to my solutions. Okay, problem, solution. That's kind of the framework that I'm following. Yeah, and another main benefit to me doing this is this. All right, so I tell you what my core concept of the next steps, even over the next, especially over the next 13 weeks, 12 weeks. We are entering the last quarter of the year, 2025. So I have October, November, and December in front of me. Those 3 months, and I'm picking my actions carefully. What do I want to do over the next 3 months in order to move the needle forward of my business? I believe that the first step in all of this is me gaining clarity on those 3 steps, okay? And me creating one video. We're going to call this Origin Story, okay? Origin Story. So this is my origin story. This is when I go back and I basically talk about that framework. I make a big video that describes the framework that I have taken, all right? The steps that I have taken. But the next question is like, how do I make a video? How do I communicate these steps? So in my opinion, this is it. First, I must understand my framework. Number 1 is I must understand the steps, okay? Understand the steps. So this is something that I've already done. I've got that, all right? I'm going to even highlight this green. Green. I have these steps on Smash, all right? These steps have been completed. I know my framework. Okay, but I know my framework. How do I teach the framework? That's the next. How do I teach it? Yeah? And to me, teaching the framework comes down into 2 things. And I'm an amateur in doing this. I'm just sharing kind of currently where I am at this stage with all of this. So I might be wrong. Number 1 is I must understand the meat and potatoes of it, all right? Meat and potatoes. What do I mean by this? Potatoes. So I must understand the theory behind it, okay? The theory, yeah? I must understand the raw knowledge. So like whenever it comes to mobility, you know, what mobility workouts have I used? How to train. The how-tos, all right? The how-tos, all right? Maybe that's a better way to put it. The how-tos. All right? So I can actually guide someone. I can tell them exactly what it is that they need to do. The exact, all right? But then the next thing that I need in this, number 2, is story, all right? And I think this one is as important, if not more important, because what I'm learning is that people learn through stories. So rather than me just always saying, all right, if let's say I'm speaking to someone here that has the same problem that they've had and they want to get in shape, they want to achieve an incredible physique like I have done, and now they are willing to listen to me. You know, they maybe see me online, they're like, all right, you're in an incredible shape, I would be happy to hear what you have to say, all right? And then I start to share my framework with them. If I just approach it from saying, hey guys, so if you're struggling with mobility, then I recommend you try this mobility workout where we're going to unlock your hips. And to unlock your hips, we're going to lay on the floor and I'm going to show you this exercise. You know, put your leg here, put your leg there, etc. So I'll give you the how-tos, all right? The how-to sounds amazing. It sounds like this is kind of what you want to portray to the person. This is kind of what you want to give them. But the more I learn about communication is that people lose attention when you just actually give them like the raw data. They don't actually like listening to data that much. What I truly prefer listening to, and I actually connect with a lot more, is story, all right? So whenever I'm thinking of these 3 steps, whenever I'm thinking of retracing my framework, I don't just come up with the meat and potatoes of it. I don't just come up with the how-tos. I don't just come up with, all right, this is how I've trained. This was my training program. These were the exercises. These were the strategies. I don't just share the strategy. I have to share the story. I have to take him back into the moment when I was a skinny kid with a hunchback and a dream. You know, I walk into the gym for the first time. The gym is packed with guys that are screaming their heads off, lifting weights that I cannot even comprehend. You know, I look to my left and there are cardio bunnies, girls with a head full of makeup, and they never break a sweat. And they always there. And then there is me, a skinny kid. I'm basically skin and bone, but I have a dream and I'm on a mission. I am going to get in shape. And then I start the story. You know, I take him back into that moment and I speak about that. And then I take him to talk about the problems that I faced, how it was so frustrating for me to go to the gym 5 times a week with excitement, with energy, you know, making sacrifices, really going after it, really training hard. And then a year later, I take off my top, I look in the mirror, and I look the same, you know, nothing changed. So for me, having the ability to create a powerful framework, at least from what I understand, from what I'm learning, it's not just about understanding the system, but it's also about having the stories. And see, the thing is, I didn't realize how hard it actually is to retrace those steps. How hard it is to, 1, create the system that you followed, and number 2, how to create all these stories, how to go back in time and actually transport yourself and think like, wow, what have I done? What have I done? How have I felt? So the step that I'm on is I've got the system, I've got the steps, but I'm crafting the combination of these 2 things, all right? I am in the process of basically combining both of these 2 things. Both of these 2 things, the systems and stories. Because what I want to do next is I want to create one big origin story video, which let's say can go and live on YouTube, all right? So then what I'm doing from this point onwards, at least this is my plan for for this quarter, all right? This is the plan for this quarter. YouTube video, YT video, which talks about those 3 steps. Then from that one big YouTube video, let's say we do a play button here, a private community. So let's say this is on school.com, where I dive deeper into that framework, all right? Where I allow people to discover more about the framework, because the one video ain't gonna cut it. You know what I mean? Even if I speak about this stuff for half an hour, all these things, then I'm not necessarily given everything anyway. So inside of the group, I speak more about this. I begin providing more value through stories and through these frameworks. And then out of that private community, I want to build relationships, all right? Build relationships. And out of those relationships, I'll just get them to sign up to my VIP coaching program, right? And a VIP coaching program, in essence, it's once again, it's that framework just taken deeper. You know, now I'm guiding someone in person. I put them on my app. Yeah, I put them on my app. I guide them in person. Guide them, not in person, but you know, 1-to-1 online. Guide them. I guide them through this process, and that's kind of the place where I'm making money. All right. So then I have my limit of 50 people. That's how many people I can take care of myself personally. Once we reach the target of 50 people that signed up to the VIP, I will then reach a point where I'll probably get other people on board and get other coaches, etc. But what's the whole kick here? I could right now, on my 100,000 followers page and a few other pages, I could start promoting things. I could make offers now to probably get people onto a VIP program, all right? But my problem is this. I still don't have the framework that's ready, all right? And if I don't have the framework that's ready, then I don't have an efficient system. So I've truly had to slow myself down in order to be in a position where I can build these frameworks. So whenever I'm done with building a framework, this is my goal for the next 12 weeks. My goal for the next 12 weeks is to have the ability to have this framework ready. I want all of the steps inside of the framework to be ready. I want everything. I want the stories, all right? And I want the systems for each steps to be completed. I want that origin story video out on YouTube. And I also want this private community, all right? So by the end of these next 12 weeks, I have these 3 things. Maybe let me mark it down purple, all right? I mark it down purple because it's a different color. Let's get purple, all right? I want this framework to be completed. I want these to be completed. And I want the origin video to be completed. And I want the private community, all right? So all of these, I'd love to have ready by the end of the 12 weeks. Now, another benefit, the last thing that I want to mention, another benefit of me doing this is because all the content, okay? All the content that I will create from this point onwards, it will always be attached to this framework. So now my content, whether that's short form videos, shorts, or whether that becomes long form videos, yeah? Now I have an anchor. I'm anchoring all of my message against it because those 3 steps, all right, the mobility, the strength training, the mind to muscle, they become kind of like the center of it all. But then around that center, I can start creating smaller pieces of content that refer to it. You know, I can speak about mobility in itself, and there's hundreds of different videos that I can make on mobility, hundreds of different videos that I can make on strength training, hundreds of different videos that I can make on my muscle, all right? So I want this framework so I can refer back to it. And then when I create short and long form content, I can send people to that YouTube video at the end. You know, I can say, hey, you like this? Go check out my 3-step video where I break down my entire transformation and show you exactly what I did step by step to go from a skinny kid with a hunchback and a dream to someone that walks around big and shredded year round. You know, whatever the message is. The short and long form content points to this video. And then that video points to the private community. That community helps me build relationships, and then obviously I'm gaining VIP clients from that. So that's the plan, that's the mission. That's basically what we're doing. And it sounds, I don't know how it sounds on paper. I don't know whether it sounds simple or not. Maybe drop it down in the comments. Most likely nobody actually is going to watch this video. I'm still doing these because I feel like one day when I've reached, you know, when I've made it successful, it would be nice for me to watch back on these videos and retrace the steps that I've taken. But the point is this. I don't know whether this seems simple or not, but I know it's complicated. It's very complicated. There is a limited amount of time that I can spend on this every day, meaning when I wake up, I'm sharp and focused for, let's say, 2-3 hours. But then my focus begins to diminish throughout the day. And I still have other activities, other businesses around, other tasks. So I'm truly juggling many balls. It's a tough process, but we're cracking on. So over the next few weeks, I'm probably going to dive deeper into this entire framework and system, show you how far I've gotten with regards to creating this, whatever I've spoken about today, creating the framework, creating that big video, talking about how I'm doing the storytelling aspect, how I'm doing the system building aspect. So if you're interested in any of this, this is week 8 of Marketing with C, where I'm taking my a fitness business from 0 to 100,000 pounds, you could say. Yeah, pounds, that's the goal. I don't know what dollars are here, but I'm showing you step by step what I'm doing. We're not rushing the process, and we're using this to actually learn the systems behind running a successful business online. And I'm documenting this entire journey. So this is it, guys. This is it for week 8. I'll see you in week 9. Let's go.